Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is the place to learn how to run your MSP, whether you're running a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. I'd like to introduce a very close friend of mine. He's been in the space, has seen a couple things here and there. I'm talking about Larry Meador over at Cavelo. Also serving now as the channel chief over at the company now. Larry, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm wonderful, Paco. How are you? Thanks so much for taking some time for me.
No, I had to make time for you as always because I love having those great conversations for you because I think we met probably close to 10 years now.
Yeah.
And again, if you haven't met Larry, Larry, when you're at an event, he's the one that is very welcoming to understand what you're all about in business. There's no very high-end pitching. There's no, especially if you're new in the space, he's very much that welcoming door for you to kind of help understand the world known as the channel, but also just because of your experience and your history, knowing kind of, here's the dark corners you don't want to go into, and here's the great thing known as the channel. And what we really are driving for community and so many things of that nature as well. Back then, you were in a different position. You're in a new company now.
I am.
I think has it been a year now?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I started in 2024 just kind of serving as a consultant advisor to Cavelo because I had met the CEO and founder and a couple other folks there, and they had said, hey, we hear good things about you. Would you help us shape our roadmap for events and stuff like that? So I just kind of consulted with them a little bit. And then the opportunity came right at the end of 2024 for me to engage conversations about coming to Cavelo full-time as their channel chief. And so at the end of January 2025, I became the channel chief. And, it's... As you understand, it's still, I used to joke about drinking through the proverbial fire hose, just trying to soak up everything about what Cavelo does, who they are, and different things like that. I'm still drinking through the fire hose, but it's starting to become a little bit more manageable. And I got to tell you, this has been a phenomenal move for me. And, at this stage in my career, after doing this for a long time, I was really looking for culture, a culture that fit with me, and a culture that was going to fit with you, the MSPs that we're out there working with. And they had the right culture, they had the right attitude. We've tweaked it a little bit so far this year, and it's been absolutely a blast, and things are going really, really well.
That's awesome. Now, before we go into Cavelo, I jumped the gun here because I really want those that have not seen you on our previous episodes or may not have interacted with you before. Why don't you give a little bit about your origin story or your intro to the channel and your purpose of why you love to give back?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in the channel now for coming up on 24 years. It's kind of hard to imagine. I'm only 29. You can tell, that's what the channel does to you. It ages you really fast, going to these events and staying out late and everything else.
Fact.
No, but I have been in the channel for 24 years, and people recently have been kind of joking with me because I've made a few changes over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's strictly because I've been approached by companies that, I kind of feel like the college NIL portal. You get offered a better deal. Sure, at this stage of my career, I'm going to go to that better deal. But so I really cut my teeth with CNET Content Solutions, which had a little platform called Channel Online that still exists. They've been bought by private equity and all of that good stuff. But Channel Online's still out there. It was an online quoting, procurement, and e-commerce solution, mainly for VARs, but it kind of migrated into the MSP space. So I spent 17 years with them. Then after that, I went and joined some good friends of yours and mine, Giovanni and Myron over at GreenLink, and was channel manager over there for a short time when I got approached by an opportunity that, I was told by a couple of friends of mine that this could be a game-changing opportunity for you, and it truly was. And that's when I went to DataStream Cyber Insurance, kind of started as their senior salesperson and then got elevated to channel chief while I was at DataStream, and we ended up adding over 800 partners in 1 year, so that was a lot of fun. And DataStream is still around. They still do a great job. They just haven't been doing a whole lot of events because it's expensive. And so from DataStream, I went to Infima, which is another great company that does security awareness training. Good friends of mine over there. Then when Cavelo approached me, I was like, Cavelo seems like a really, really good fit for me.
Yeah.
And like I said a few minutes ago, it's been phenomenal.
No, it's amazing, right? And so similar to me, right? Prior to selling our majority stake to MSP Owners Group and joining on as their CEO and really focusing on that piece is culture, right? And focusing on the ability of making sure wherever I'm going as we move forward, playing out for the next 4 or 5, maybe even 10 years, what's that look like? And all it keeps coming around, at least from just people I'm talking to, even in our conversation today, it's been culture and relationship.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing nowadays, especially with just as a human being, you just want more than what the transactional items that we've been so close and have wanted so much during those years. Things change.
Yeah,
and with the times changing, I think it's so great to have a community and a place to belong to really allow for just that growth and moving forward. But Cavelo, where are they based out of?
Actually, out of Kitchener-Waterloo, up in Canada, kind of outside of Toronto.
Gotcha.
And that's actually, if you remember the old BlackBerry and RIM,
Yep.
that's where that was born, was in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Interesting. So, I'll be fully transparent. I have not heard of Cavelo until you actually joined as channel chief, because again, we're friends. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Cavelo does and how it's impacting MSPs and what drove you? Because again, you mentioned culture, but I imagine that there's a lot of cool things that are happening over there that you're pretty excited to bring to the table to MSPs.
Absolutely. So, we got a lot of acronyms in this industry, and I'm going to throw another one out there because I want to see if you know what this is.
Okay.
Do you know what DSPM is?
DSPM?
Uh-huh.
I do not know what DSPM is.
Data Security Posture Management.
Data Security Posture Management. Okay.
It's
Please
kind of,
elaborate.
as somebody told me, it's like DLP, data loss prevention on
okay.
steroids, but I think it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
So Cavelo, we have a platform that is part data DPSM. I can't remember what the heck I just said. Part DPSM and part attack surface management. So we're there really to, and we call ourselves the risk visibility platform because we give you guys tremendous visibility and give your customers tremendous visibility to the gaps that they may have. And what our platform does, we do a whole lot of stuff under one roof. But, first and foremost, we help you find what assets are out there on your customer's network, both rogue devices, approved devices, and this is a continuous thing. So as something gets added, you're automatically going to get visibility to that. But we're also then going to dive in and find where all the sensitive data is, PII, PHI, even CUI data for CMMC, different things like that.
Okay.
We're going to dive in. We're going to show you where all that sensitive data is. And we also have the IBM cost of breach data analysis built into the platform. So it enables you to start talking, real world risk exposure. What all of the sensitive data that your client has, what would it be worth in a security incident? So now that you know where the assets are, and you know where the sensitive data is, which that's usually it raises some eyebrows with the clients because they're like, oh, we know where everything is, and you show them our tool and how we display it out there, and they're like, whoa, I didn't know that. Yeah. But then we also show them who's got access to all of that data. And they think they've got things locked down, but the big surprise is they're like, wait, why do these people have access? And so we show them who's got access, what they've been doing with that sensitive data. Have they moved it around? Have they duplicated it? Different things like that. On top of that, we can also show what software they're running. So if they're running unapproved software, we can point that out to you, and that's usually a big surprise as well. But then what we do from there, I told you we did a lot of stuff under one roof. Now that you know where the sensitive data is and you know what it's worth and you can talk real world dollar figures around that, we also have vulnerability management built in. Okay. And we use that data, that contextual data, to help you guys triage, all the CVEs. There's tens of thousands of CVEs out there. Yeah. And you don't want your team spending a whole lot of time on stuff that doesn't really matter. So now we've got a risk heat map that we can show you exactly which devices have the most risk exposure, and we can also show you what CVEs those devices need to have patched or fixed or whatever you want to call it. So that way it's kind of a prioritization or a triage of, what do we need to fix to really make an impact against this customer? And then last but not least, we also have configuration management built into it. So you can set your baseline policies, configurations, all of that good stuff. We're going to track any type of drift from those configurations, the minute it happens, so that you can make sure you're helping your clients that, have the regulatory bodies in there, setting policies and stuff like that. You want to make sure that they adhere to the policies that they have to do to maintain their business.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a true, I would say, security platform, and to a point where it's doing a couple of things, right? It's a true inventory management platform where, because, if you don't know what the inventory of your items, both hard and soft, it's not, you don't get the full picture. And then having the ability of understanding a lot of, again, rogue and unwanted, shadow IT even, for example, that truly adheres to that. And because my next question was going to be, well, is this kind of like a vulnerability assessment, but it's so much more because it's actually an actual module inside of the platform that you have. Now, can MSPs leverage, is it an all-in platform, or is it a module-based platform where they can start with one or the other? Or how does that work for buy-in on the platform?
Yeah, we try to remain flexible. I mean, the power of Cavelo is in the true platform, but we do realize many people already have some of these things in place, and they may not want to switch. So we can modularize things. Okay. So, if they just want one or two of the 5 modules that we got, we can do that. But again, the power really is in using us all together. And, I think the value that we provide to you and to other MSPs is, for example, how many tools do you use currently within your business?
So that's a trick question. So before the acquisition, we were down to, I believe, 7 tools, but that is not the norm.
Yeah.
I know that it's anywhere between 25 to 37, I heard, were some of those tools that a lot of MSPs were running. And just over the years, we were working on consolidation and making sure that the attack surface was a lot lower.
You got it.
And so, but post, it's a whole different new world now that I'm in. So I have a team that's dealing with all that right now, and I don't know how many tools we're on right now. But to your point, the average amount of tools is staggering.
It is.
To the point where, and there's always 2 different frame of minds. There's some that will say, well, I like having this many tools because now I don't have to have all my eggs in one basket. And then there's others that are like, well, I'm trying to minimize the attack surface because if there's a chain event or something of that situation that goes down, I need to protect myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd rather have it in that full control. So it's very interesting on that back and forth. But again, I think we're just in this era where platforms and ecosystems are growing for a reason. Because not only is it so much for management, because how are you going to manage all those tools that are not in a single dashboard, right? Well, it's the elusive single pane of glass, which oftentimes are a single pane and And so, it's a big point of where, these, as Cavelo and other platforms are trying to create something that's not only easy to manage, but also cost effective as well. Because I think we're gotten to a point now where, resources are starting to become a little bit more tighter. And whichever way, however you look at it. And so now you have to kind of make those smart bets on what investment you're going to make to help scale, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, one of the things that you've touched on a lot of my talking points here, and that is, the number of tools that the average MSP is utilizing is staggering. And I also think sometimes, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you don't think about what that's costing you.
Yes.
Not just in dollars, but is your team spending more time managing tools, or are they managing your client's risk? A lot of cases when we talk to MSPs, they admit, they're like, yeah, I think my team's spending too much time managing the tools because oftentimes, they've got 15 tools in place. Sometimes these tools don't talk to each other. Each one has data siloed over here, data siloed over there. And think of the amount of time that your team has to spend to go take the data from point A and data from point B and data from point C and put it all together to get a true picture of what's going on with your client. And that's what Cavelo offers, is we bring a lot of stuff into that one single pane of glass. I know that's an overused term, but that's truly what we do. We've got this one single pane of glass and a wealth of information out there. And it's data-driven, actionable insights that you can easily present and take to your customer. And, you can point out where those open doors are in their security posture. And that's where you start making revenue, because now all of a sudden you can say, and here's how we can remediate some of these things.
And you made a great point, right, where not only are you trying to culminate data in several different places, and I actually had a panel yesterday talking about this, where reporting has become such a difficult thing for clients, or producing to clients. And I think the biggest piece of it is not even so much about the data coming in, it's even just the false notifications. And just cleaning up
agent
the
fatigue,
yes.
noise, all of that stuff. And that's another thing that we try to solve. We're not a noisy platform at all. We've heard from other MSPs that some of our competitors are a little bit noisier than we are, which you don't want that. You know, you don't want all these false alerts coming in, different things like that. Then you've got agent fatigue. You've got so many agents installed. With Cavelo, you've got one agent, and it does everything that I said that we do.
Gotcha.
So it makes it really, really easy.
And I was just going to ask you about deployment. Is it just simply an agent where you just throw it on a machine to scan the network and kind of go from there? Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
And so there's no hardware devices. You're not plugging anything in. So you can truly do this remotely, deploy it, and then get all that information.
Through your RMM, yep, absolutely.
And how long does that data collection usually take for someone to get true data to look at their dashboard on average?
The first collection can take, depending how much data they've got, it can take anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days. But then once we've got that, then everything is just, adding what has been changed since that initial scan. So it's really fast and can be done just in a matter of minutes.
Gotcha.
So it's, and one thing you touched on that I'm kind of jumping back to, and that's the reporting. Oftentimes you've got lots of data, but the reports just don't really they don't really stand out, or they don't really meet an MSP's expectations on what they want to put in front of their customer.
Right.
That was one of the things that we really focused on. I mean, we've got a really solid platform, but the reporting, from what we hear from our partners, they just absolutely love the executive summaries that automatically run. They're graphical, and anybody can sit down, even the CEO of a company, which we often understand or often know is probably the weakest link.
Yeah.
They're smart people, don't get me wrong, but usually kind of the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity and what all we're doing, because they don't want to get mired down in it.
Right.
They can look at these reports and go, wow, didn't know we had this many issues going on.
And I think that's awesome because, with an executive summary, sometimes, it takes so long to get in front of that decision maker, right? And having the true value of a quarterly or a technical business review, it gets to a point where now you're in front of them. Can you present something to them that's not just things that they think that they're paying for already?
You got it.
I think we get to a point where, hey, we solved these many tickets, we killed these many bugs, and blah, 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 blah. And so to them, and I always hear this, is just that tangible, like, that's great, I'm paying you for this, but what value are providing me?
Precisely, and that's what ours
on my time, right? Because it's, again, sometimes I have clients where I want to get in front of them, like, yeah, I got 15 minutes, and then I show it to them, and I can just tell they're just not present.
Yeah.
Right? And so being able to show that, like, this is where we're at, and to be able to have something impactful is going to drive that decision making, or for whatever roadmap you're trying to put in place for that client.
And what I've heard from several of our partners is that the way we do our reports, they have been after their clients to do, A, B, and C for months, if not sometimes years. But our reports, the way we concisely put everything out there and put it in a nice wrapper and all of that good stuff, and you set it in front of that CEO or CFO, and they all of a sudden look at this and they're like, whoa, we need to fix this, and we need to fix this right away.
Yeah.
And then you get to speak up and say, I've been telling you this, but I'm glad you realize this now, and here's our plan on how we're going to patch all these holes.
Yep.
And boom, all of a sudden they pull out their checkbook and give you some new
I'll
money.
embrace that.
And we've heard that story so many times since people have deployed our platform. So
Gotcha.
that makes us really happy to hear that.
Now, I imagine you're platform agnostic, and it sounds like there's a lot of connectors into certain things. Are there any that they are to be highlighted, or can you pretty much say like all the most common ones we probably do have a connector or some type of node to pull that data from?
Yeah, all the common ones, ConnectWise, Autotask, Datto, ServiceNow, Ninja, Synomi, several others. We've got a lot out there. We've got an open API, and we're adding more integrations every day. And as our partners come to us and tell us, hey, we need this, that, or the other, we put it right on our list and just keep checking them off and getting them added to the platform, because we know that integrations are absolutely critical for you guys, for all of these platforms to be able to talk back and forth, and we absolutely agree wholeheartedly.
Now, since joining Cavelo, how have you seen kind of like the development cycle from taking in client feedback? Have you seen it increase and scale? Is it just Cavelo has always done it at this process where we always take that feedback and we're turning out those type of features in a fast process? I'm curious as to the difference you joining on and now them seeing the need from MSPs. Has that grown in any way, or Cavelo just has been on the ball and they're just continuing what they do best and allowing for just hearing that feedback and now kind of re-shifting or even adding even more pop to the platform for them to get to more impact into what they're doing?
No, great question. I'm glad you brought it up. And, Cavelo from the get-go, they knew what they were doing. I know you hadn't heard of Cavelo until maybe I joined them or seen us at an event this year. And that's the case for a lot of people. But, there's a reason for that. Cavelo's actually been around for the past 4 years, but they really weren't doing events and things like that. They were just kind of more word of mouth and different things like that. We are actually formerly an MSP ourselves.
Okay.
And so, we took a lot of the pain points that we had experienced and said, man, I wish we had this, I wish we had that, we need this, it needs to talk to this, it needs to talk to that. We took all of that and built it. So it's built from the ground up by an MSP for MSPs. And incidentally, our founder, James Minyaka, has had some tremendous success in the past before Cavelo. Okay. He had another platform that he and his team had written that ended up getting acquired by Arctic Wolf a few years ago. So, and they're still, and that was a vulnerability management tool that Arctic Wolf still uses. So, he's had some successes, and I think, going back to talk about the culture of Cavelo, and this to me is what really attracted me to Cavelo, is that he has taken the same team, the development team and the people that he's worked with for many years, and he's brought them with him to Cavelo. So it's people that he has known and worked with for the past 15 or so years. And he has an incredibly smart, fast, efficient team. And they're before I joined, they were doing a whole lot of things right. And I think, since I've joined, I've been able to kind of tweak a few things and say, hey, why don't we do this instead of, like they had a customer advisory board. I said, why don't we have a partner advisory council? Let's talk to our MSP partners. And getting back to what you were just talking about, we typically reserve 30 to 40% of our development roadmap for input from our partners. We want them to tell us what they need. And I've got a great story that we just did down at the Channel Company Exchange event in Denver just, 2 weeks ago? James, myself, and our head of marketing, Alex Cajeas, were all presenting to boardrooms and solution tracks and stuff like that. And we had our deck and we had all of that stuff, but, we were getting a lot of nods on what we were talking about with the platform. And James just said, you know what? I'm going to go rogue real quick, because what do we need to do? And he asked the audience, what do we need to do to help you guys be successful? And I love the approach that he took. And what we heard, wholeheartedly from everyone was that, our biggest challenge is you sell this to us and we love what we see, but then all of a sudden, how do we sell it to our clients? And here's what we need. We need to be able to go out there and do maybe a one-time assessment and put that report, that beautiful report, in front of our prospects or our existing clients, because that's what sells this whole platform.
Right.
And so he said, you know what, let's build it into the platform, and we're going to be launching that at DattoCon in just 2 weeks.
Nice.
So, that's taking partner input from 2 weeks ago, and he had the development team drop everything they were doing, kind of rewrite some modules so that you guys can go out there and do these one-time assessments at no charge, so that then you can sell it to your clients and buy it from us. So
that's amazing. What I was going to mention was, and you made a very key point, and I heard this question, I want to say it was probably maybe last year, and they were asking, has the vendor space changed enough to understand the MSP needs? And the comment that I said, and everyone's like, well, some are still trying to figure it out, some are still doing some of the same stuff that they've been doing, but as I kind of took inventory and I came to me, I said, I think they actually are probably in the right way, in the right process. And the reason I say that is because I think we've, at this time in this thing called the channel, we have more vendors that have spawned from MSPs or MSPs who have exited, who I have identified the issues that they ran into to adhere to their own peers.
You're absolutely right.
And that has since grown, right?
Yeah,
and the amount of vendors so hearing that, that someone who realized what the pain is from, built this product, and then the second piece of bringing his original team with him, understanding not only just culture, but understanding that, these, and I'm not so much of the CEO and the founder of the company, but the people following.
Yeah.
Because that proves that, and I've always said this is my definition of success, is that when an employee or a staff member feels and talks and reacts to business items with a client or in public as if they own the business too, that is pure success.
Oh, it totally is.
And the fact that they all followed just shows the leadership and the relationship leadership versus transactional leadership kind of moving forward from there. But ultimately, the last thing you just mentioned is, founders and CEOs tend to make their team pucker up a little bit when they're like, I'm going to go rogue. And I'm sure it's a, all right.
Well, we kind of did that too. We're like, uh-oh, what's he about to do?
Strap in for the ride here. And so it just showed the importance of, all right, we're really going to take this client feedback and understand that, okay, you all want a prospecting tool. And I bet him being able to make that pivot has probably now caused such a more ingrained expansion of market to move forward, and it removed the barrier from someone wanting to do business.
You got it. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
It's all about relationships, and you've taught me this many, many years ago too, right? There's no ability of doing business without relationships, or it's just a very hollow way of doing business, because the transaction will just simply be that. It's just a transaction. And so being able to really key into that is awesome. Anything else you wanted to add on about the platform and kind of what you all are doing over there?
There's so much that this platform does that I don't even know how to articulate well yet, because I'm still drinking to that proverbial fire hose. I learn more and more. We bring some of our technical people here and let them talk, and I'm like, wow, okay, I like this. We do so much in that platform. It really is kind of, it's funny, I've talked to so many MSPs, and they're like, okay, this sounds absolutely phenomenal, but I'm skeptical you do everything you say you do, and I'm skeptical you do it well. So what's really fun is when those MSPs come back to me and go, whoa, you guys are the real deal. Larry, I thought you were kind of blowing smoke, which was, not your style.
Right.
But, and so I'm glad that it's always about, what is it, under-promising and over-delivering?
Yep.
And I try to lay it out there and say, this is what we do, but try it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And when they come back and they're like, this is even better than you described it, that makes me feel good, because, again, kind of going back to the whole relationship thing, and I just spoke on a panel here talking about the MSP and vendor relationships and how we help each other to grow. Again, it just goes back to the culture that Cavelo had built, and it matches what I want to do, which is build that relationship and build that trust with the MSP rather than go for that short-term sale. Because I think, vendors have come a long way. To your credit, what you were just saying, I think things are a lot better than they used to be 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But sadly, I still see too many vendors treat this space as a transactional sale. And this is not a transactional business. And if they're doing that, I'm not sure that's a vendor you necessarily want to be doing business with. You want that vendor that wants to build that relationship and wants to help you grow, because guess what? If you grow, Cavelo grows.
Yep. And I think the biggest piece of that too is you made a very good point. I think all of us as a community in the channel we're pretty smart on to the fact that we know who's someone who just kind of came into the space, and we're kind of weary of news vendors in the space. And we kind of say, okay, great. Let's see you in about, I think the average is about 2 years, 2.5 years. If you're still in there, you're still pounding the pavement, and you're trying to figure out how's going on, and you're trying to provide value, you will eventually be able to get the adoption that you're looking for as far as the vendor. And like you said, the ones that are there for transactions, you know those very well, because those are the ones that are gone in 6 months. Those are the ones that, you haven't heard about them anymore. But I will say that, over the years of the many ventures that we've done business with for both of our companies, over the years has always been that. It's always been the relationship, building that trust, and again, is why I consider you a great friend, because that allows me to know that if you're coming to me about something, and you've even asked me for my feedback, and I go to you as well as first feedback, and everything that you've done has always been like, how do I help you so that we can make sure that this is a true partnership?
Yeah.
And it is growing, but as you said, for some, it's very a lost form of art, that a relationship being built provides so much more value and impact than just treating it as, all right, here's my quota, here's my widget for the day, now it's time for me to move on. But as we kind of round out the episode here, Larry, we talked a little bit about the platform, we talked about kind of your time here. If there's anybody that's currently in the market or is just trying to figure out kind of their next steps on how to provide value to their client, what is probably your lasting words or something that you can probably instill to them? And then what's the best way for them to reach out to you if they're interested to hear more about Cavelo?
Yeah, so good question there. And I mean, here's the way I think everybody should approach things. You've got to, especially you guys owning your own businesses, I wish I had the intestinal fortitude to start my own business, but I don't. I'm happy doing what I do, working for somebody else. So I admire you guys, but you're never going to have the success if you don't lead with your ears.
Yes.
If you don't listen to what your clients' pain points are, and if you don't try to match what you have to offer to their pain points that resolve their pain points, it's going to be really hard to be successful. And, sadly, I've seen, and it's not just MSPs, but I've also seen vendors do the same thing. They don't give a crap about the pain points. They just want to sell their stuff.
Yep.
They just want to put this stuff out there. So to me, the ones that are going to be building those lasting relationships and are going to be around for many more years are people like yourself who go out there and, like I said, lead with your ears. Listen to what your customer is telling you they need. And sometimes your customer doesn't know what they need. So that's when you get to educate. But where do you get educated? From us.
Right.
And if we don't have a good training program or use cases or use studies, whatever you want to call them, or sales playbooks, it's hard for you to learn. So, it's reciprocal. You've got to have a good vendor that's going to support you so that you can support your clients, and then you breathe the feedback back to us on how we make things better for you. Yep. So how do you reach me? Cavelo.com. That's Cavelo.com. Find me on LinkedIn too, or you can just call Paco. He has my phone number. We text back and forth all the time.
Absolutely, and then I have to let him know, hey, is it okay to give out your number? No, but no. Again, I'm really grateful for the time that you spent, not only just here today, but over the years, helping me and guide me on a lot of things that just questions and understanding. Because back then, some 10 years ago, I was an MSP, I was an IT service provider, but I didn't understand how all of this worked, right? Being able to attend an event and providing value and having the relationship. And I think it's through you and several others that I've had such a great relationship with the other side of the channel, not just with the MSPs, but all of the vendor partners and those that are impacting. And truly am grateful for that as well. But again, really appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me today. And yeah,
my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
We'll make sure to have the notes the links and everything that in the show notes. And I appreciate all of you tuning in today. If you want to listen over to the video podcast, you can head over to youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever a new video drops. If you would like to take us with you on the go, we're on all of the favorite podcatcher apps. Head over to MSPUnplugged.com and you'll see all the variety that we are on: Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, to name a few. And again, appreciate everything that the MSP Summit over at Channel Partners, because there's a bit of a rebranding going on here, that was educated to us. And so we appreciate them having us here on site in Orlando, Florida. And we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
Thank you, Paco.